fresh off the heels of the PSA collaboration, we got a look at IGN has thrown us some alt art cards as well as an article talking about the Attack on Titan Apocalypse card set review by the talented Scott White. So first of all, let's take a look at these retro turtle alt arts. This is what people expected from TMNT. This is what people wanted. I mean, the immediate feedback to these cards has been a lot of love for this art, for this design, but a few people have been saying that the current turtle designs aren't great, and I disagree. I like the current iteration of the turtles. I like the way they look, I like the way they kind of feel, and design is more modernized, but those are opinions, people are entitled to them. It doesn't take away from how cool these actual alt arts look. This 80s style TMNT boys, we've got Leo, Raph, Mike and Donnie, and they look really cool, and I'm sure these are going to be sought after cards, and I cannot wait to see if any of the other characters that also correlate with their 80s counterparts will have the same treatment, such as Metalhead, Bebop, Rocksteady, Leatherhead, Wingnut. They've all got their 80s counterparts. I'm very interested to see if we're going to see 80s style versions of them, or if this is just one for the main four boys, possibly Splinter and April as well. On top of that, we got the Attack on Titan Apocalypse set review from Scott White, as I mentioned at the beginning. So let's take a look at the article. Scott White published this on the 14th of July, and if we look at what we have here, we've got a nice mixture of our IPs. We got some Critical Role, we got some Cowboy Bebop, we got some Tekken 8 mixed in there as well. And this is so it looks like we're looking at UVS as a whole, as well as looking at the Apocalypse kind of set review. It's very cool looking at the card game through the lens of a different kind of gamer, especially one that has got an interest in things like Magic the Gathering and other card games, and then is able to take that experience to assess universes. So we start off by getting a brief synopsis of what Universus is, and talking about the old universal fighting system that's been around almost 20 years now. So Scott talks about how our resource system works. So unlike any other card game, your resource system is found on the card. You have a number at the bottom right of our card that acts as its check value. The number at the top right, the number at the top left is the cost. We have progressive difficulty, which means you add the number of cards you've already played, or cards that are already in your card pool, to the number in the top left, and that is how big the number is you need to pass. You can use foundations to supplement your check, but as Scott quite says in here, succeeding in your checks allows your turn to continue. One failure in a form ends your turn and lets your opponent take their turn. It is a very unique and interesting system, as Scott quite rightly points out. It adds an extra bit of tension, relying on your deck building skills to make sure that you're going to be able to pass your checks. For a brand new TCG player, or a TCG player coming in from a system has never experienced this before, it can be a bit overwhelming. It is something you get acclimated to very quickly as a Universus player, but as a brand new player, yeah, when you've got so much you already need to focus on in learning the game, I can see why people would call that overwhelming. Scott then talks about the fact that this is also included in blocking. So if you look at the top right hand card side, most cards have a block zone and modifier. Similar to the cost, this is how you keep yourself alive. This is your main form of defense. So I do agree that with Scott that this card game is one of the most complex. This is why in Attack on Titan, the design team tried to simplify it a little bit more, with blitzes and with attunements and all these other things. They threw a lot at us trying to simplify the game, and I can understand why they need to do that if this is the kind of feedback they're getting from IGN and other sources, that the game is too complicated. That said, once you get over that initial hurdle, once you get used to the interactions and the synergies and how the flow of the game goes, you can get a good handle on it very quickly. It's just getting over that initial hurdle, and it's a game that you can learn the basics of very quickly and understand how it's played, but to master the flow of the game takes a long time. So it looks like Scott's mainly focusing on the Attack on Titan series. This started off with Battle for Humanity, our onboarding product. It was meant to be more basic, more simple, allow new players to come in. Then we moved on to Origins of Power and Apocalypse, which are looking at the manga of Attack on Titan. Unlike other card games out there that are deploying from the anime, this is a partnership. This is a license through Kodansha, and it is using the manga, giving this very unique, cool art style. And Scott does say he prefers the anime art style to the art style that we have here for. Scott does say that he prefers the anime art style more, but there's no denying that these are unique printing, and that's because we took the manga, we took this black and white media, and the design team added a flare of color. They added this kind of flow design. They expanded on some of the art and adding more detail to some of the art to make it look good on the cards, and each of these cards is color coded to one of its symbols. This is why we look at here. We've got Zeke Jaeger War Chief, Jean and Mikasa. Jean and Mikasa are blue for the air symbol, whereas Zeke is pink for his chaos symbol. It means that these cards are quicker. You can identify these cards quicker, and it just lets you immediately be able to see what symbol this card's going to be and make them easy to identify. When talking about Attack on Titan, we see that Scott is a big fan of the shift cards, the double-sided Titan cards, allowing characters and attacks to shift forms and to have other roles in the game. And Scott does say he hopes that the team can incorporate into non-AOT sets. We have already seen this in the My Hero Academia Dark Challenger, where we had Izuku Midoriya on the move, who could transform into Izuku Midoriya Quirks Unleashed. So they are already looking at the shift kind of transformation potential moving forward, and it's something that could be very cool moving forward, especially with some of the other IPs that are floating around out there. It's something that I wish we'd had in things like Critical Role or MHA. There's a lot of cool ways. I think we did a video a while back where we were talking about Bowie from Yu Hakusho, where you could have Bowie in the full armor, and then when Bowie sheds the armor to go to like full power form, that would have been a very cool shift card in itself. So yes, I 100% agree. This is a good mechanic. This is one of the best things that's come from Attack on Titan, and I think it's something that needs to be steered into quite well. Scott talks about the size of the set. If you're hoping for another large set like the Titanic Battle for Humanity, pun intended, Colossus, it was a Colossus set, Scott. Come on. Get your puns right. Biggest critique of this is that is a bad pun when you could have gone with, if you were expecting another Colossus set, if you're expecting another set like the Colossus Battle for Humanity, boom, done, 300 cards, you're going to be out of luck. They've already confirmed to us that there's not going to be another 300 card set. If you came into here going, cool, I want more 300 card sets, A, please don't. That's one of the biggest issues that Attack on Titans had with the community, and B, it's very hard. Attack on Titan Battle for Humanity is coming to fire from the community quite a lot. I personally don't have an issue with the way it was designed, apart from the fact it was just too big. They've got powerful cards in there, they've got some very well balanced cards. It's just that the main issue where people bring it up is the filler cards, because it was a 300 card set. Did it need to be? Who knows? It could have been a license, could have been because it was designed for new players, but it was an experiment, and I think they've learned it's not something that the community responds well to. Apart from, as it seems, Scott, who really enjoyed the 300 card set and would like more of them, so maybe we will see one in the future if this is the feedback that gets back to design. Now, the next point that Scott brings up is something that I'm starting to feel more, that I know other content creators are starting to feel more, and other people in the community have started to pick on a little bit more. The current run of sets feel like they're more aimed at collectors than players. Steering into the chromes, the alt arts, the here's how cool the cards look. Go get these cards because we've got the creator of AOT's signature. We've got the Critical Role cast signatures. We've got this exclusive art from Critical Role artists throughout the community, and comics that we've commissioned, that we've put art in for, and we've gone to some of the best artists in the Critical Role community to get the art. We've got brand new art from the creator of Attack on Titan for our chromes. We haven't seen the chromes for TMNT yet, but it's just another one of the things that these serialized chromes, the way that the sets are being pushed, the way that the game is kind of being advertised, especially with the collaboration with PSA, which is a collector's first kind of design, it could be argued that they're pushing very heavily into the CCG aspect of Universus. That looking for more collectors, it's more, we're bringing in the fans of the IPs, we're trying to get them hooked on the look, on the design, and we're hoping they stick around to play. As we've seen, Critical Role sold out faster than any product we've sold before. It has been hyped. The Critical Role community has been buying this out in droves. It's been selling out ridiculously quickly in local stores, in online stores, because the critters want these exclusive cards. And we saw that the pre-release was one of the biggest ones. But when I speak to players at a local level, when I speak to players who had these people show up to the pre-release, they haven't seen them since. Maybe one or two have come back to play or like got you, but most of the people seem to be working on a master collection just have. And then when you talk about things like Street Fighter, Attack on Titan, TMNT, Guilty Gear later this year, they have no interest in it. And I can get where Scott's coming from. We're talking about the fact that it's looking like it's more designed at the collector side of things than the new player side of things. And because, like what he says, a quick Google search into Universus Attack on Titan, it's all about the looks, it's all about the design, it's all about the new art. It isn't about the learning resources. Now, this is something that I've identified and addressed, and I know a few other people identified and addressed as an issue in the community. And the new Street Fighter challenges have got learn to play built in. But this is a very complicated game. Even myself, after playing for 3 years, do not understand all the interactions. I know players who've been playing 15 years that would still get tripped up by some interactions. And even Scott himself in the article is saying that they've been dabbling in the game for 2 years, but they still struggle in a number of areas, including resource symbols. And then when Attack on Titan came along, resource symbols became one of the things they wanted to address. That's why we got achievement, and each of our design primers gives us a clear line as to what each of the symbols is going to do. We haven't actually seen that with TMNT yet, but in Critical Role we were told these are the symbols, these are what they're going to be doing. For Attack on Titan Battle for Humanity, we're told these are the symbols, these are what they're going to be doing. There are 12 symbols within our game that have got these abstract ideologies, and each of these symbols is meant to have its own identity, but they don't anymore. We've just had 3 sets of Attack on Titan where fire was our primary mill symbol, where we were self-milling, we were getting benefits from self-milling through fire, and now we're moving into TMNT where all is our self-mill symbol. And it just feels weird that we can just have this loosey-goosey approach to our symbols. But that's something I'll touch onto in a video in myself talking about symbol identity. But it does go to Scott's point on onboarding on new players, that it can get very confusing. It can get very tough for new players to understand everything that's going on, especially when you look at our learn to play resources and when you look at our starter decks. So the Attack on Titan starter decks had no backups, no assets, no actions. It was all attacks, foundations, and very demo-y. Then you move on to the Critical Role starters, and we got assets, we got backups, which are very cool. Actions were left out because they're a bit more complicated, but TMNT is handling that with the new schemes. The schemes are great ways to teach new players how actions work. But one of the big issues that Scott identifies is with the UVS website. It did get revamped recently in the how to play aspect, where you got a phase breakdown, a play by play of a turn, and how your product progression should go. When we look at what we've got here, getting started with Universus, we've got autonomy of a turn, how to get started step by step, and the rules and documents. So you start off with your starter decks, you move on to your clash decks, then on to challenger. After that, you've got your booster packs and booster boxes, and then we go into our card types, our characters who lead our decks, our foundations that allow us to pass our checks and progress the game state, our attacks which allow us to deal damage to our opponents to progress our win condition, our assets and actions and backups that aid in our defensive offensive gameplay. Then it cuts immediately to, if you want to learn to play, watch a video. Not everybody likes to learn through videos. Some people like to sit and read and digest and process, and I can understand that. Then you've got to find a community near you, and then jump back to demo, and then at the bottom of the page, if you've gone all the way through this, you have the try the interactive tutorial, which takes you to the Dized app. Then you have a link to the community Discord, and an official how to play guide. Now that should be at the top. That should be at the top up here. The official guide to how to learn to play the game should be at the top, because this is what Scott was kind of looking for. Win conditions, game zones, card setups, turn sequences, playing abilities. So you got your win conditions telling you how you win. That's not in the how to play, like the learning the basics. A more detailed breakdown of the game zones, card view overtype. Now, fair play to what Scott said in the article. If you look at the symbol aspect here, which is us here, number 6, symbols are used for deck building and identifying the front faces of cards. For more information, check out our website at uvsgames.com. So if you go to uvsgames.com, try to look for the symbols and go to learn the basics, you're going to get taken straight back to here. I couldn't find anything directly that talked about symbols, symbol identities pinned on the UVS website. Then, similar to what we saw on the front page, we have characters with a bit more detail, attacks, foundations, assets, backup, and actions. The setup. So this is what needs to be pinned at the top. The way that you can just go through the combat phases, a more detailed breakdown of how the game works, how to make checks, how to play multiple cards and what happens, attack sequences, block steps and block sequencing, abilities like enhances and blitzes and responses, deck building. Here we go. So right at the bottom, right here. So why did it not say here when we're looking at the card type symbols? Go to page 21, and then you drop down to page 21, and that's where we have deck building with resource symbols, attune symbols, and the infinity symbol. That's all that needs to be done there. This is what Scott was looking for. I knew it existed on the page because I have done a deep dive into most aspects of this website when looking for future theories and stuff like that. But not everybody's going to do that, and not everyone's going to scroll down to the bottom of the page looking for this aspect. This is what I believe Scott was looking for, including frequently asked questions and a way to fully download the rules here. Even a quick reference. This is what I believe Scott was looking for on this page, and it is here, but it is right the way down at the bottom, which is not where it should be. That should be at the top. That should be up here. Helpful resources to help you get started. How to play should be among those on the top. This is helpful. Don't get me wrong. It is just bare minimum. Videos are cool, and I get that. I mean, I'm trying to take views away from one of my most popular videos on how to build your first deck. I know that we've got great content creators like Tam and UVS Hermit that fill in the gaps of this is what these keywords do, what these keywords mean to you. This is how you play. This is how you do stuff. Not everybody wants to watch content. Not everyone wants to learn through content and through videos and through that kind of second-hand experience. I learned to play from Universus official videos. That is how I learned. I did not learn by watching the secondary media, because it isn't always the bare bones basic that new players need. And some people just don't like that aspect at all. So having this official how to play guide at the top would be a huge step forward. At least I think that is what Scott was referring to. If I'm wrong, do let me know, Scott. But from what I can see based on here, the how to play video teaches the basic concepts of the game, doesn't touch on half of the card types, and doesn't even mention those resource symbols, and they're completely omitted from the art on the cards used in the demonstration. So it looks like Scott didn't see that at the bottom of the page, which is at the bottom of the page. Not everyone's going to see that. I think that the how to play video needs to be updated. Personally, the best starter decks at the moment to me are the Critical Role ones. They have assets, they have backups, they have attacks, they have a utility of the attuned resource symbols, and they are very linear play styles, so you can get your head around it. And because they're made up of cards from the main set, they're very easy to update. They're very easy to change and make more competitive, and the only thing you really need to master outside after these products is actions. This game is a lot of fun, and Scott even says when he plays this game he has a lot of fun. It is a very cool, very interactive where you and your opponent are always having this back and forth mentality, and you can have so much fun in this game. The main issue, as Scott says, as other people says, is we struggle to keep people playing. It is a very complicated game, jumping IP to IP. We're always fighting an uphill fight. Universus is a hard sell to a lot of people because when you start explaining it, it does get very complicated. So having the IP to bring people in is very important. I do agree with Scott there. IPs bring people in. The gameplay should be keeping people. And when we were after MHA, before Attack on Titan, we did keep a lot of people. We lost a lot when we decided to add Yu Hakusho and Attack on Titan and all these other IPs into the game. We lost a lot because some people just wanted it to be MHA only, but we retained a load as well. The article was really well done. It was very well explained. I'll link it in the description, so please do go check it out and show Scott some love. I'm also going to tag him in this when I post it onto Twitter. It's great to see that someone's really enjoying the Attack on Titan set. Apocalypse was very cool. There's been some great stuff to come out of it, but the game is very complicated, and when we keep adding new things every set, when we keep adding new things and new gimmicks every set, we've gone from Shift and Blitz and Ruin to then adding Outwit to now we're getting Schemes and Drive, and it's a lot for new players to have to take on. We had a whole article around 11 months ago talking about the mental load of the game on experienced players and how much we have to remember and how much we have to know what's going on, and like talk about our hand sizes and how much information we're processing and how much we can remember. And then the game, it just keeps adding more and more and more and more, whilst also taking away aspects, but not completely taking away. Going, this set won't have this aspect, but other sets still do. So you still need to remember that the chaos symbol is a thing. Yes, it's not in TMNT, but it's still a thing. It's still something you need to be aware of. And when our symbol identities start to bleed into each other with like all and fire, when our characters have access to less resources but don't get a power spike, it's a lot. It is a lot to put on a new player. A new player coming into Attack on Titan has to remember Shift, Ruin, Outwit, Blitz, responses, all the basics that we have in the game. And then when they come out of the AOT bubble, now they have to remember that we also have enhances, echo, different ways to play this game. We've got 3 symbol characters, non-attuned symbols. Now we've got schemes, and we've got all these other aspects, adding more layers games, and we keep getting more. The way this game plays is already complicated enough, and we're adding more complications to it with every set. This is why I've been saying repeatedly, the Critical Role set was the best of the year. It perfectly aligned attunement and non-attunement. It perfectly aligned blitzes and responses and ways to utilize what we already had in the game without adding anything more to it. It was beautiful, and I don't think we're going to see another set like that for the rest of the year, that well designed and using what we already have that well in a way that is easily digestible by new players. I know TMNT is our onboarding product for the year, but it should have been Critical Role. That's me. It should have been Critical Role. It is the easiest for new players to digest. It is the easiest way of using what we've already got without adding anything new. So it prepares players for the bigger outside game. When the mechanics of even playing this game are so complicated that experienced gamers are calling it 3 out of 4 in complexity, then the way the game flows, it needs to have interesting interactions. It needs to reward you for your growth. but it needs to be easy for new players to digest. And at the minute, I don't think it is. Tyrell brought this point up on the podcast, and it's something that I'm going to get him back to go into a bit more detail. The new player experience is so complicated, it's so convoluted in how much a new player has to remember that they may forget to have fun. They're so focused on everything else that's going on, everything that they need to remember, everything that's going on with other people's decks, because there's so many new keywords, tactics, ways that decks play, ways that they utilize different things. It's hard for someone to just have fun and play the game when they have to remember so much, and they can become burnt out so easily. At least I think that was your point, Scott, that this game is complicated, that the game is very complicated in itself. All the new sets are making it more complicated, and it's hard to onboard and sell this game to someone when it keeps changing, it keeps adding more, it keeps reinventing itself with every new IP. Hopefully Scott sees this video. If not, if you do, reach out to me, buddy. I would love to collaborate on an aspect or get your opinions on how I read your article. This video went on a lot longer than I wanted it to. I will catch you all at game night, and remember, go sign up for the TMNT pre-releases now. If you want to get a chance to get these amazing art cards that IGN showed off, you can get them first at Gen Con or at pre-release. Hopefully, I'll see you there. Bye.